Good morning, Mr. Taylor. My name is John Watler Jr. I'm part of your intern media team, and today we'll be doing an interview asking you about the recent EPA rollbacks and the dropping of the EPA lawsuit against Dinka. First and foremost, we want to start off by asking you, how did Concerned Citizens of St. John get started?
Good morning, John. Well, that I was introduced to the issues at a town hall meeting that was called by EPA in midsummer of 2016. And when the results of the studies that were ordered by EPA came back to us, it was astounding at the level of exposure that our people were being exposed to. As a result of that, I joined with my pastor and one of my local politicians, and we formed the Concerned Citizens of St. John.
So, good to know. Good to know. Uh, so we do know you've done some work with Administrator Regan. And because of the advocacy that you and your organization have put forward with this fight for environmental justice, what could you tell us about Administrator Regan and the Han Rule?
Well, yeah, my introduction to Administrator Regan was a blessing, and it came in our, I think, after our fifth year of struggle out here and being completely ignored by all government, from all levels of government and health professionals and people who are supposedly in charge of making sure our environment was safe. Uh, with the oncoming of the Biden administration, Administrator Regan contacted us, as a matter of fact, and he wound up actually coming to St. John Parish to see for himself, as he said. He walked the streets, he went to the school, and he sought out solutions. We discussed things that he thought I might need, what my views were. And out of our conversations, we we uh, we came up with I did in talking to him in our conversations rather. I expressed to him how helpless we felt because number one, we had no way of knowing for ourselves the level of exposures that we had. We were relying on the chemical industry to inform us of how much they were poisoning us. And I think that is what resulted in the Han ruling and some of the other legislative actions that he took to help us here in the environment, such as allocating funding directly to the fence line communities so that they could develop the ability to monitor the air themselves and know what we were breathing.
That's really tough to hear, especially because we've been working with you guys for a while and we've learned how you are the number one cancer risk, environment, and that leads us to question three. Uh, so, given the high cancer rates in communities along Cancer Alley, do you think that these monitoring rules go far enough in holding industrial facilities accountable for their emissions?
Well, that's a great question because no, they never did, as a matter of fact. Uh, And what did happen, Administrator Reagan came up with some solutions. See, because in spite of the fact that all of our scientific agencies that worked under EPA to get the information about the health outcomes of our exposure, EPA could not enforce any of the facts, any of them, they knew that they set a zero point 0.2 level of exposure of chloroprene. but they could not enforce that. It was up to the state to enforce it, you know.
Yes,
Uh, and of course, the state would not enforce it. They never did enforce it. And that's what resulted in a really great advance for us, the one great move that took, and that was the Han ruling. That's where the government switched that around and did give EPA the authority to enforce those levels, those safe uh, levels of exposure for the people. The Han ruling then said that EPA could demand that industry not continue in their pollution of our communities unabated.
yes, sir. With that being said, as we saw recently with the Trump's administration and how they handling EPA, how has the Trump administration's recent rollbacks of environmental regulations, such as the decision to dismiss the federal lawsuit against Dinka performance, uh, impacted the efforts to mitigate cancer risk in Louisiana's Cancer Alley?
Well, I mean, Trump, uh, along with our present governor, they have significantly reduced. Well, they've taken away any abilities we've had.
So,
Trump has reversed all the advances that we had made over 9 years of the struggle that our people here in Cancer Alley, especially and nationwide, have made. When when he when they stopped the lawsuit, and not we know they're not going to pursue it. They're talking about Trump is talking about doing away with the Environmental Protection Agency. He has actually turned us over to the petrochemical industry. They have a free hand now. They have a free hand to do whatever they think is best. And we know what they think is best, their profit margin. They don't care about the lives of the people.
yes, sir. Just a follow-up question. From my understanding, isn't there an elementary school that was in close proximity of one of those plants?
Well, yes, that's one of the big issues that we have. I'm glad you asked that question. Fifth Ward Elementary is a historic school. It was originally Fifth Ward High School. It was the only black high school in St. John Parish, when it started out. And the plant was positioned right near the school, right in the heart of the black community, though. And it just so happened that the school was right there. And what really drove us is when we found out the level of exposure that those children were being subjected to,
Yes, sir.
levels that were 400 to 700 times what EP had deemed a safe level. And the DuPont Danker people just callously, they disregarded that in the lives of those children and of the people in that community as a whole.
Yes. Ooh, that's honestly heartbreaking to hear. And uh, me being from New Orleans, I'm not directly in Cancer Alley, but I know that that stretch that's a long stretch with over 250 petrochemical plants. Uh, with that being said, what steps do you think local government should take to protect environments like Cancer Alley from those toxic emissions?
Well, first and foremost, I think the politicians should live up to what are there for. They are there to represent the people.
So,
So there are agencies. None of this is brand new. For us out here to be put up with, they have to decide what they should be doing. They know what is right and wrong. The problem we have is whether they are going to do the right thing or not. And it could be a long, drawn out thing. I could sit up here and talk about item by item, but what number one, that we would demand from them that there be a moratorium on petrochemical plants or any other invasive or dangerous activities by these people in our community.
That's it.
No more chemical plants, no carbon capture and sequestration, all these dangerous things that is being proposed by these chemical companies and people that's coming into our community. And we suffer the brunt of all of this stuff and benefit nothing for it. Why would our government continue to allow that to happen to us? Our elected officials who swore allegiance to us. That's why we elected them to protect us. Why aren't they doing their jobs? And the people now need to stand together and demand that these people live up to what they are have been elected to do.
Yes, sir. And knowing that, it's mostly Black communities that are affected by these petrochemical emissions, what would you like to see the community do as a whole to also help fight the good fight against environmental justice, for environmental justice, I mean?
The community, as I just said, the big thing right now for us is to unite first.
So,
See, because what they have been doing, the petrochemicals got their company, they got their agents among us. They got people out here they infiltrate us and they divide us and get us fighting among each other. And all of that is to the benefit of the chemical company. So the people need to first and foremost exhibit self-love. We must unify together for the benefit of our people.
so
Because I'm so moved by something Martin King would always say, unless we come together as brothers, we're going to die together as fools.
yes, sir.
So when we see people coming in and trying to create dissensions among the people in the community, that only benefits the petrochemical industry. So we need the people to stand together and to demand our rights, that they protect us as human beings and do not take away our human rights and our rights to life and happiness, the American dream, the American promise to his people. Why can't Black people experience that?
Yes, sir. I I really appreciate you on this day, Mr. Taylor, for taking some time out to actually talk to me to do this interview. And just hearing you speak, it reminds me of two quotes, one from Martin Luther King and one from Malcolm X. Martin Luther King once said, "You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step." And I appreciate you for taking that first step for your community and willing to fight that good fight. And Malcolm X said, a man who stands for nothing won't stand for anything." And you are a man, I can honestly say, that stands for something. Like, you want to put your best foot forward to not only fight for yourself, but fight for those that's coming behind you. And me being in the younger generation, I appreciate a man like you.
Well, I certainly thank you and appreciate you, John, and you guys coming to try to help us solve this problem. We really do appreciate you and thank you.
Thank, glad to help anytime.